Hey, it's Lukky. Before I talk about this project, I would like you to listen to the sound effect of these doors. They make me so happy for some reason. Anyway, what you're looking at here is the product of 3 days of tinkering. I did a couple of posts to Reddit of this project and they gave me some feedback. The idea of the project was making this stylized sci-fi setting, the saturated colors and the color scheme and the fat white borders. They're all part of this theme that I'm going for, like little minimalist, low poly. In my opinion, it turned out surprisingly well. Sci-fi usually has this very grim setting, so I thought I'd flip around and make it very colorful. And worked out really nice. I thought about the gameplay, and maybe the gameplay could be like hardcore, so it's like deceiving. The game looks really childish and colorful. Once you get into it, the progression is really hard and grindy. Could be a fun concept. The thing that really motivated me in this project was the sound design. I got into the sound effects very early. I used this website, I'll link it down below. But the sound design really immerses you into the environment, in my opinion. The footsteps and the interaction sounds with the doors and the objects and this brown noise in the background really pulls you into the setting, which is otherwise hard to get into because it's so childish and low poly. Really blends the project together. I really like it. So in total I worked about 10 hours on this project over the span of 3 days, and I'm gonna give you a little breakdown of what I did. I would really like your feedback on this one. I think it has a lot of potential and I really like the look, so let me know what you think down below. Alright, let me break it down. Day 1 was only modeling. I started off making the ship. I learned from my last video where I made the walls too thin of my ship and the walls were clipping into each other all the time. I knew I wanted to go for this low poly blocky art style as soon as I started, so that's what I went with. The doors are what I built first. They're a very repeatable asset and they're very important for the ship as there's a lot of doors. So yeah, I'm trying to get instancing into my workflow in Blender. It's basically where you don't actually copy an object, but you're just mentioning it so you can edit the original and all the other ones change accordingly. Now you can see me setting up the walls of the main room. I just took a big cube and added some edge loops. I tried to keep all my geometry on the snapping points of 1 meter, so all these edges always line up. Here I thought it was time for some color. I decided to get the colors for this project of a pixel art color scheme website. I used to use them a lot for 2D assets and I think they transfer nicely to 3D. I'll link it down below. It's an amazing website because all the color palettes are game inspired, well, most of them. And they also show examples of like the vibe that it's going for. It's a great resource for low poly modeling and for anybody who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about colors like me. So yeah, great asset. Be sure to check it out. Every project of mine has a turning point where I realize I'm no longer just messing around and I'm really getting into something. Like I can see a game or a look that I'm going for, and adding the colors to this simple model really was that turning point. I could really see the vibe of the final product already in this one room. So I started playing around with the colors in the walls and the shapes on the walls and the floors to get a sci-fi look. I made all these beveled edges. The first couple of attempts were just too messy. These shapes gave the ship a more artsy vibe and I was going for that more sci-fi, like designed and industrial. So I simplified the design a lot. I also took the light colors from the floor to just have the floor be dark colors, the walls be a little bit lighter and the ceiling be the same as the wall, to separate all the layers because there's not going to be a lot of shading in the game and I wanted to keep the surfaces separate. Here I also decided to keep the orange for interactable objects, so everything that's orange on the ship is gonna move or you can interact with it, so you can separate walls and static objects from interactables really easily. So that's it for day 1. I got the shape of the ship down, some colors, no furniture yet, but yeah, this first session got me motivated. And on day 2 I finished up the model. So, day 2. You can see I skipped ahead a little bit. I worked on the project off camera, but I only changed the floors like I said. And I imported the model into Godot just to see how it would look in the engine. Looked surprisingly well with a little bit of effects added to it. You can also see me finishing off the cockpit, adding all the windows. Every time I walked in there I felt like I needed more windows and more windows. So I actually added 2 more that you can see on the floor. And I'm adding 2 more on the sides of the wall later. I'm not sure if I recorded it. Then I thought it was finally time for some furniture. I gave all the rooms a little theme. The one in the back is the living quarters, so there's a table and a shower and a toilet. And then the one on the right side is a medical/science room. So there's the medical table, a mixing station and a computer station. And then opposite of that room, there's the transporter, the storage and the crafting. And the cockpit of course is for navigation and observatory. During this project I tried to keep exporting to Godot as much as possible to see how it would look in the engine and also get a feel for the scale of things. I'm not making tables too big or chairs too small. Yeah, it was a really nice workflow, going back and forth. I really like working with untextured low poly models because nothing feels so set in stone. Everything can be changed really easily. You don't have to worry about texture stretching or scalings being off if you scale an object weirdly. Everything is really changeable. I love it. So yeah, day 2 was just a bunch more modeling, and I did get started with some colliders and making the sliding doors work in Godot. But day 3 was where I did all the programming and the sound design. So yeah, day 3, a lot of programming. I also added the first person weapons in day 3. If you'd like to know how to do this, I actually have a tutorial on how I set up first person weapons and animations. I'll link it down below. The weapon models, they're from Kenny. Also link his stuff down below. But this day was mostly programming, setting up colliders, testing, getting movement to feel good. Yeah, it's not really visually appealing to look at, so there's not a lot of fun footage for this, but yeah. And I also generated the surfaces for the worlds. They're very simple, they're just flat planes, and I add a bunch of random cubes to look like rocks. The soft shading of this game really helps with blending all these sharp edges. So it doesn't look that bad, but of course if I was gonna expand this project, I'll make highly detailed surfaces. But yeah, the workflow made this project so fun. The low poly assets and the quick editing meant I could get a lot of results in very little time, which is always very satisfying. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep working on this project. I think it has a lot of potential and I would really like to, but I set this project up to be one of those giant ones. There's the crafting system, the planet services. If I want to keep gameplay fun, I'm probably gonna have to randomly generate some terrains and maybe even space stations that you can raid. But I think it's a good first try on this low poly space style, and I'll definitely give it another one soon. Alright, that's all I have for you guys this week. I hope you liked the project. Please give me some feedback on this one. This might be a style that I would go for on a bigger game. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye.